Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to your latest instalment of the Gersnet Weekly Podcast, hosted by myself, Craig Hume. We are the Independent Rangers podcast made for fans by fans, and all of our content is absolutely free. You can get us over at gersnet.co.uk. You can get access to the forum, some articles, and a wonderful history archive as well. We are going out live on YouTube tonight, guys, so we do ask if you want to get involved. Please do speak to us in the comments, and also like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and share with all your pals. Before I introduce my guest for this evening, I need to give a shout out to our sponsors over at Forrest Precision Engineering. They're a subcontract Glasgow-based engineering company and have been a big commercial supporter of Rangers for many years. We're absolutely delighted that they're backing our podcast. You can get them over at forestprecisioneng.com, and you can also visit the Forrest Precision Executive Lounge, a stunning new hospitality area within the historic main stand. For information on how to book this unique and intimate space, you can email the club via hospitality@rangers.co.uk. Joining me tonight, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Scott Bradley. Scott, how you doing this Valentine's night, mate?
I'm not too bad, mate. Not too bad. I'm still not over what happened on Sunday, as you and I have spoke about quite a bit. But yeah, it's just Rangers, honestly. And of course, the fact that 13 years ago today, we went into administration. Now, obviously, you and I are sitting here on a Friday night discussing how bad Rangers are in the current state that Rangers are in. And yeah, it's what it is. But how are you, Craig? How are you? You're looking smart tonight.
But I just got this delivered the other day, actually. And before you ask, I did order it before the debacle on Sunday because I wasn't giving the club any more money. But I got it for that. Is it like classic football shirts or something like that?
Yeah.
It was only like 10 quid, so it was all right. Came brand new, so I'll certainly take it. But Sunday, we will speak about it. It's weird, you're talking about that, 13 years ago. The more things change, the more they stay the same, because we're still talking about how crap Rangers are. And speaking about things staying the same, Scott, it's almost as if nothing's changed from Sunday. It's almost as if this is still Monday, because we've not heard anything from the club until today. It's just been radio silence for the whole week. Even people that have normally got insiders at the club not saying anything to them either. Just the whole club being on lockdown basically until today's press conference. What's your thoughts firstly on what happened last Sunday, because you've not been on with us since, but just the way that the club's reacted to it as a whole as well?
Obviously, Sunday was a disaster, as we all know, Craig. It was catastrophic. In my opinion, it was the most embarrassing result in our history, the worst in our history. But in terms of just with how the week has went, it doesn't actually shock me, because I think the board just see it as it's business as usual. I don't know if that's to do with the fact that, I don't know what it is. Maybe they're that out of touch that they don't realise how bad this result actually is. And I don't think Clement understands how bad it is. And of course, we'll touch on the press conference from today. But yeah, just the aftermath it's been really disappointing, and it's not been surprising, if that makes sense, because we all know how incompetent this current Rangers board are. They've been like that for basically ever since Rangers won 55. And I'm just scurred with the whole thing. I'm just fed up with a lot of Rangers fans are, because there's no way back for Clement after what happened on Sunday. There's one thing, right? Obviously, Alan McCoist lost quite a few games in the league, right? But you can put that aside purely to the fact that, we were at a championship side, we're playing in the leagues, it kind of makes sense. But Rangers have got a bunch of talented players out there that they've spent a lot of money on, and they couldn't even beat Queens. They couldn't even beat Queens part-time side in the championship. And as you remember, obviously, you and I met up after the game, and we weren't even angry, seething. We were just kind of numb to it all now. We're just that kind of result doesn't surprise anybody nowadays, because that's just the way Rangers are right now. And even my Celtic pals, right, usually before they'd been winding me up like crazy, they don't even really bother anymore. I thought Sunday my phone would be blowing up. No, it's just a wee joke here and there, and that's it. Done. Even there, I've got to the stage where they know, Rangers aren't a threat to us. And see, when we're at that stage, Craig, it's really, really worrying.
It is worrying. Patrick Stewart's just came in as the CEO day after the cup final, and he was kind of presented with an open goal in terms of taking the SFA to task over the Cherney penalty incident that we weren't awarded. So he started off well in the eyes of most of the supporters, but we know we've got this external review happening for the entire footballing department, which I don't disagree with, but at the same time, it's an American company based in New York. I'm sure they've got all the right qualifications and expertise, but again, like the players like Philippe Clement, do they understand Rangers? Do they understand the magnitude and the gravity of that result on Sunday? Because it's all well and good, the guys coming in, with all these stats, figures, graphs, spreadsheets, this, that, and the next thing. It goes out the window in Scottish football. So whilst stuff like that is important, and we do need to really reevaluate the entire footballing department, are these people actually going to understand, what Rangers are all about? I have heard people say that we shouldn't be making a decision in terms of the manager when, we're still going through that process of an external review. But at the same time, there are just some things that you cannot do, and not even in football, in any walk of life, in any job. If you, drop below a certain level, or if you cross a certain threshold, you just get sacked, and that's it, regardless of what change the business is going through. I mean, if you're the flipping zookeeper at Edinburgh Zoo and you leave the gates to the panda enclosure open one night and the pandas escaping rampage through the whole city, it doesn't matter how long you've been there, you're going to get sacked, right?
Yeah.
There is just some things like this is the equivalent of that happening in a Rangers capacity. You just cannot get beat off a lower division side in the Scottish Cup at home to Ibrox and not even look like scoring until the last 5 or 10 minutes as well. And to me, it's more a bigger thing of, where are we now as a club in terms of standards? Because we went from there under Gerrard when it came to standards, and for me the bar's now all the way down there. Because if that manager's not getting sacked after a result like that on Sunday, what's it going to take for him to lose his job?
I know, and I said to you on Sunday as well. It kind of does feel like the board. The board, right? They probably see the success in Europe as credit in the bank, when really it's not. Of course, the European campaign has been good, right? And it would not shock me if we actually go on to the semi-finals in that competition, right? It's just the way Rangers are. Rangers are a cup team. We all know that, right? There's moments for Rangers, but Rangers domestically are abysmal at the come on. Exactly. Yeah. So, but that's the thing, though. Of course, the European moments on the come on, they've been good, and I don't think he's a dud of a manager. Far from it. The evidence is there to back it up, but he hasn't got the mentality to be the Rangers manager. He doesn't get Rangers, doesn't understand Rangers at all. Same with the board as well, because if this was under David Murray or anyone else, he'll be long gone. But in my opinion, I think he's going to be here until at least the end of the season, because we're at that point where it's like the league's done, the lost League Cup final, got knocked out the Scottish Cup to Queen's Park, so the only thing left to play for is Europe. And like, regardless what happens with Europe, see if Clement it doesn't at least make the final, I think the board will at the end of the season pull the trigger if he doesn't do that at least. But yeah, even though like a lot of people have been saying like, Rangers don't have enough money to sack Clement, I've never really believed that statement. I've never bought into it at all, because Stuart does say that there's money there to sack him, but I think maybe perhaps the board might be being a bit lenient with him purely because of the fact he did inherit a mess. We all know that. Like, he inherited a complete shambles from Michael Beale, and Michael Beale, of course, is the worst Rangers manager in history. Inherited a mess, and Clement had a really good first couple months. Won the League Cup, made the last 16 of Europa League, and obviously we're top of the league for a wee bit as well, and everything was rosy in the garden. But when you really look back at Clement's tenure, well, particularly he's obviously still here, but when you really look back in the last year and a bit, and so right. It's the only standout moments we come on is the League Cup last 16, or back to back last 16s, 3-0 win against Celtic, a draw against Spurs. Everyone else has been crap. Everyone else has been crap. But yeah, he is a good European manager, knows how to set up a team in Europe. That's why we are, for example, whoever we get, Fenerbahce or whatever, in the last 16, I fancy us to actually get a result and go through. Because Clement is a good European manager, he doesn't know how to set up in Scottish football. Where, for example, we're playing teams like St Mirren, St Johnstone, whatever, and we're treating them like bloody Barcelona. It's embarrassing. He just does not get it at all. And obviously, remember you and I did say, when Beale got sacked, you and I were in the very small minority of folk that wanted Frank Lampard. And I think you and I were actually right. Graham Souness is on our side as well. Frank Lampard should be in that dugout, not Clement.
Well, to be quite honest, mate, it's hard to disagree with that sentiment. And I'm not just saying that because I wanted Lampard in, but I think for me, Rangers need one of two different types of managers. They either one need a presence, someone that commands respect, like a Lampard, like a Gerrard, perhaps as well, possibly coming back. Either that, or they need someone that knows Rangers, knows Scottish football, and gets the club. But obviously within that, you need to be a reasonable enough manager as well. And I think we've been guilty the last few managerial appointments of just completely overthinking things. We overthink the Scottish League so much, right? We all say we want a specific playing style, we want to do this and do that. Let's be quite honest, right? Rangers should be beating 10 teams out of 11 in that league without having to put a tactical brain in there, right? The only time that a tactical now should come into the Scottish football is when you're playing Celtic and then the games in Europe. That's it. I'm sorry. You don't need to be some sort of football genius to be beating the likes of St Mirren or Motherwell when your budget is like 15 times that of theirs. I'm sorry. And I just think that we're so guilty of overthinking things all the time. We need to think about tactics and about systems and this, that, and the next thing. Just go out and win the game. You're better than that team on paper anyway. Just go and beat them. And I just think we've overthought things too much in terms of the Scottish game. It shouldn't be difficult. It should be simple, and we just overcomplicate things. And that's what's kind of annoying me when people talk about Lampard, for example, like, oh, he's a bad tactician, he's failed or whatever. Like, I'm sorry, you don't need to be an amazing tactician to, be successful in Scottish football. You don't. I mean, Neil Lennon's won about 3 or 4 league titles as a manager. You seriously going to turn around and tell me that he's a good tactician? Like, no. But, Neil Lennon get the job done against wee teams, and he also had the mentality, for the most part, of being a Celtic manager. So I just completely scunnered. I just think we overthink things too much. This European style of manager, it's never ever worked for Rangers. The only time it worked was under Dick Advocaat, but at least under Dick Advocaat, he actually realised that in Scotland you need to win the battle first. He also flooded the team full of Scottish players that were Rangers fans and that understood the club, and he also kept a lot of the ones there that were there for 9 in a row, that could do a job and teach the foreign guys coming in, a lot of the Dutch players, about what Rangers is all about. You look at that Rangers team now, genuinely, I do not think there's one player in there that I'm thinking is going to take the lead in terms of, I'm going to show, for example, Rafa Fernandez coming in. I don't know what player or what staff member now at Ibrox, because a lot of them are gone, is going to be showing them about, talking to them about the history, and actually just making sure they understand how big a club Rangers is. I just think we've got to that point now where there's nobody really in the club now that actually understands us anymore, and it's quite sad.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on with everything you said there, because that's the thing. Like, see, for example, when you look at the Rangers team right now, there's only one player that can actually, like, take the game by the scruff of the neck and make something happen, and that's Czerny, right? And Czerny's been our best player this season, and he's a loanee, and let's be honest, he's we're not going to get him in a permanent. That won't happen. But in terms of what you said about like how the people at the club right now, obviously in the managerial sense, the coaching sense, all that kind of thing, even some of the players as well, do they really get Rangers and understand what it's all about? Probably not. And the fact that we just seen this week, like the response from the club in Clermont today in his presser, it's just like business as usual. And last Sunday at the presser, where Clermont swore, apologised, but he didn't apologise for the result. So that just kind of tells you everything you need to know. Because see if that was anyone else, for example, someone who understands Rangers and gets Rangers to the core, the first thing they would have said in that presser is, I'm very sorry for that result. Apologise to supporters straight away. You didn't get any of that. Clermont's like, I think one of the first things he actually said was, we had more shots on target, we just couldn't get the ball in the back of the net, all that thing. You're like, do you not realise how embarrassing that result is? Like, seriously. And it's so frustrating. And today, when I was watching some of the clips from the press, I don't only just see me clips, then watch the full thing. So, mate, right now, I just cannot stomach anything he says. But the clips that I've seen in preparation for the pod tonight, I did feel a bit sorry for him. Because we all know that he's trying his hardest and he wants to do really well. And I think he is a very decent guy. He is. But he just doesn't get it. He doesn't understand Rangers. And when he first came in, you remember you're talking about aura and presence, right? When he first came in, he did have that. He had the aura and the presence. But now, that's totally gone. He doesn't have any of that anymore at all. Like, when you and I do the press stuff, sometimes I'm just like, I can't wait to get out there because he's just rambling pure nonsense. Because before I would be listening to every single word that he would say, and then see when I'm quoting him, just writing it down, I'm just like, did he just really say that? Yeah, it's baffling. It's baffling, and yeah, it's a real sickener because you and I think you were probably like, out of all the people I know, apart from Big Alec Anderson, shout out to the main man, you were probably one of the biggest Clermont defenders, and you never really, even when we would have a bad result, you would never go in hard on him like the way some other people have. But now, it says a lot when, especially you now, are like, nah, there's no way back from him. No way back for him after that, sorry. But yeah, because I really did want Clermont to do well and I had a lot of patience with him. And I wrote an article at the start of the season for Breaking the Lines talking about how Rangers fans need to have patience, right? But I did say we need to see improvement, we need to see progression and signs of, okay, we're going somewhere here, right? And I did see over the last few weeks, I kind of felt like that was happening after the Celtic result. Of course, I was making the last 16. But we're right back to square one again. And yeah, and as I said, the only way he could actually survive this is if he actually makes the Europa League final. That's it. And let's be brutally honest, that is not going to happen.
Well, that's all you were saying in the group chat last night.
Yeah, I'm trying to be as positive as I can be in these tough times, Craig. I'm trying to be as positive as I can.
I know. But to be quite honest, the only way he can get the fans back is if he wins the Europa League. And the problem is, first and foremost, that's not going to happen. And secondly, we'll even be here by that time anyway if things don't improve in the league. Just that I seen one of the comments in Sky saying that it's news to him that Frank Lampard commands respect. And I mean, of course, a guy that captained his team to the Champions League at the home of the team that they were playing against, to absolutely battered them. I am sure a guy like that doesn't command respect. But in fairness, he did say that he's got nice hair, so he should get him in. So I mean, I can't see it happening now.
I know. I was just going to ask you about you, right? Because obviously we all know when it came down to the final two, it was between Clermont and Lampard. And obviously, as soon as said go for Lampard, he's had a brilliant playing career. He knows what it's like to be at a big club and the expectations that come with it. Do you think, right, obviously Lampard's doing really well at Coventry right now, but see if he was to ever find himself out a job again and Rangers wanted him, do you think he would go for it? Or do you think he might be like, no, you patch me for that guy, I'm not going to be anyone's second option? Do you think he'd actually take the Rangers job if they ever keep calling again?
Honestly, I don't know. I think certainly right now that ship sailed, and if it were to happen again, it wouldn't be for for a good few years. Just when being in a job now and doing well, it's probably not going to happen. But if you're talking about personal choices on successors, for me the top choice now is a guy that's just out of work and was just in Saudi, and Steven Gerrard. I think it's quite obvious. Sometimes the most obvious choice is actually the right one. But for me, if it would be free, it would be him. I like the idea of Kevin Muscat, but my only worry with that is, and I've said it the whole time, is that we need to spend money in order to do what he wants to do as a manager. And I just don't think that the funds would be there as well. And I've kind of hated myself for saying it the last few months, but even a guy like Derek McInnes, I think, would do a much better job domestically than Philippe Clement. The guy knows Scottish football inside out. He is actually a decent tactician. He does set up well against teams, and he has punched above his weight most of the time. I know Killian having a good season, but I mean, he's been involved in Scottish football for 15, 16 years as a manager. I think one bad season with a team that's got a pretty bad budget isn't the worst thing in the world. And he does understand the club as well. So I would be fairly happy with one of those three choices. But for me, mate, Steven Gerrard staring at you right in the face. I know, and people have said the whole not going back and his cup record was poor, and that is true. But at the same time, Steven Gerrard's a winner. He's got a personality, he commands respect. I think as well, he's got a point to prove because he's not done well since leaving Rangers. And, I can understand his reasons for leaving it the first time, but I also think it wasn't just us. I also think he himself wanted a go at the Premier League. It didn't work out for him. He went out to Saudi. It's not really worked out for him there. And I think he's itching for another challenge. And as I say, I think he's got unfinished business in Govan. So hopefully that is one that can be done. I think personally that's what I'd like to see come in.
Yeah, I would take Steven Gerrard back in a heartbeat. I love Steven Gerrard. He's one of my heroes. He delivered, in my opinion, the most important league title in Rangers history. The guy just oozes charisma. He's got aura. Just everything about him, I love him. But that's the thing though, right? Even though I would take him back in a heartbeat, we know the reasons why he actually did leave was because obviously when we won 55, he was like, okay, let's push on now. He was wanting to get back from the board, and the board didn't exactly back him in the summer. And then shortly after that, he went to Aston Villa. So yeah, I just want to ask you this, right? Do you actually think he will want to come back under this current regime? Because in my opinion, I think he wants to come back. But right now, I don't think he would want to unless he gets assurances that he'll definitely be back late in the summer.
Nah, personally, I can't see him wanting to come back at this moment in time, not unless the people at the top change. And I know the boardroom has changed the last couple of months, but, I said on Sunday after that game, we'll see if Patrick Stewart's his own man or if he's a puppet of the Parks. I think if Patrick Stewart's his own man, he starts to come on the spot on Sunday. My worry with Patrick Stewart and maybe even Fraser Fortin is that they are basically just mouthpieces for the Parks. And I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just my thoughts on that situation. I think so long as guys like that are still technically in control of the club, I don't think Steven Gerrard comes back. You can say he'll be given assurances. It doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure he was given assurances after we won the league. I'm sure he was probably told by the board then, yeah, we'll have this, that, and the next thing to spend. We should have had Joey Veerman in and we signed Jorginho Bacuna. So that just kind of sums up exactly where we were back then. We didn't fix the roof whilst the sun was shining, and we're definitely paying for it now. But yeah, I think personally that would be the one for me. But again, it's like, realistically, would he come back? Probably not. To be quite honest, I think the most realistic appointment is Derek McInnes. I think if you asked me to put money on it and who was going to be the next Rangers manager after Clement, I would probably put money on Derek McInnes. And as I say, I think he'd do better than Clement, but it is what it is.
Because that's the thing, we're at that stage now. I don't want to sound like a Rangers star or whatever, right? Or just use this cliche term, but right now we need someone in that dugout that understands Rangers and understands Scottish football. We really do. Derek McInnes, I would take Derek McInnes, right? And I know a lot of people in the comments are going to go crazy when I say this, right? But I would even take Billy Davis as well. I would, like, because Billy Davis, I know he's been out the game for a long time and whatnot, but he's a Rangers man. He understands Scottish football. He gets it. He knows the pressures. He knows the standards that Rangers need to live up to. But I feel like we do need to get someone in there who, for example, they don't need to be an ex-Rangers player or like have connections to Rangers, but just experience of like me managing in a big club environment or playing in a big club environment with those expectations. We need someone in there like that because Clermont just doesn't bloody get it whatsoever, and it's so frustrating. Like just going back to the presser, it was like the clips I seen. It was like painful because it's just like it's almost like chat GBT with him. He just hits out the same redundant, absolute nonsense time and time again, and it's so annoying. Like I thought Michael Beale was bad for his hot air that he would come at me. Clermont's getting to that stage now where he's on Michael Beale level for talking absolute crap.
Aye, just some of the stuff that he's saying now, it doesn't wash. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't wash at all. And there's so many examples now that you can pull up of him, either deflecting or being a hypocrite or whatever. And this isn't a knee-jerk reaction from fans as well. We've been rubbish for the last year. Since that Motherwell game in March, I think a year's a good sort of judge of someone in a job to see if they're good enough or not. And I think it was probably the Aberdeen game for me earlier this season at Pittodrie where I started to go, like, no, there's something not right here. But as you said earlier, Scott, I did stick up for him despite that, even after that horrible period at Christmas. It was another time of me going, I'm not sure, but, let's see what we can do against Celtic. And then we beat Celtic and we go 2-0 up against Hibs and you're thinking, here we go again. And then we draw that game and, we go on another reasonable run. But, you always felt that this reaction that we've seen this week, despite us allegedly turning a corner after that Celtic game, you always knew deep down that if we were going to drop points again or get a bad result, or even worse, a result that happened on Sunday, that it was just a ticking time bomb. And you always feel that if you're always one result away for the sack, you're probably not the right person for the job, and you should probably just pull the trigger and get on with it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Of course, he's going to be here until the end of the season. We all know that, and yeah, we just need to obviously get on with it. But I think obviously in the agenda that you said earlier on, in terms of like when will Rangers fans actually start like properly like protesting, I think that's going to happen very, very soon. But Rangers fans do it in a more classier way. That's why, because obviously when Celtic were going through their meltdown, like 5 years ago or so, when they were throwing sharps at the team bus and all that, that's not what Rangers do. Rangers fans don't do any of that stuff. We're just a bit more classier and we have a lot more patience. But right now, I think things might actually turn toxic. That's just my prediction, just with how bad things are. And it's understandable because Rangers fans fork up a lot of money for season tickets. My season ticket cost me about 800 odd quid or something like that, right? And I've had my season ticket for about 15 years and I've only seen us win about 5 trophies during that period. Yeah, it's like fans, the last, like obviously during Rodgers' first spell, he was up against Warburton, who obviously wasn't backed enough, right? Then he was up against Cassini, right? Then Graham Murray. Then obviously when Gerrard came in, he only had about 6 months in Scotland before he like dipped down to Leicester. Then obviously he's came back up here. He's been against Michael Beale, and Clermont had a short spell where he was doing well. And now it's like we're making Brendan Rodgers look like a very good football manager when he's far from it, literally. And that's the most frustrating thing about the whole situation as well. The fact that Celtic have just coasted their way to all these trophies, and they surpassed us in terms of like our trophy record. And obviously they're going to add obviously league title and the Scottish Cup to that as well. And you're like, it's pathetic. It really is. Like it's really hard to recognise Rangers Football Club anymore. We are like the Manchester United of Scotland. Man United and Rangers are so similar. Like, we're just living off past glories. That's what we are, Craig. We're just living off past glories. We're still massive clubs, but it's just nostalgia. That's all we go off from nowadays. And it's really sad to see. It really is. And even though I always say that 55 is the most important league title in history, which it is, but we didn't kick on from it. Like, you would have thought, okay, even when Gio came in and obviously won the Scottish Cup, made the Europa League final, you would think, right, okay, we're on to something special here. Didn't exactly back Gio heavily in that summer window. Then he gets sacked in November. We're 9 points behind, right? And then look at us now. Come on, to lost a cup final. We're 13 points behind Celtic, and we lost the Queen's Park Scottish Cup. And he's still in a job. Radio silence from the board. Radio silence. But it is baffling and it's so frustrating.
It is. You mentioned protests there, Scott. The thing with protests, right, and we all seen what happened a few weeks ago with the UB and stuff like that. There doesn't seem to be one group or one cause that the Rangers fans can actually rally around together. We've had Club 1872 in the past that have just disappeared completely. Like, nobody knows where they've went or where the flipping donations have went either, probably. But they've just been silent for ages. We've got this fan advisory board, It's
all made up of yes men. We all know that. It's all made up of just yes men.
Well, I
probably shouldn't say that, but it's true.
I mean, your words, not mine, but I wouldn't exactly say that they represent the average supporter. Let's just say, it's just there's not sort of one group that we can all rally behind. The problem with the UB is they do a lot of things that are controversial and can cost the club money, whether you agree with it or not. So there will always be people that don't like them, right? So that's why when you get these people saying a few weeks ago, if you were booing the walkout, you were giving the board the vote of confidence. I don't think that's what they were doing. I think they were just doing it because it was the Union Bells that were doing it. I think if we had another fans group or whatever that done it, it would have been applauded probably because the banners and stuff were getting applauded, but maybe just a group of fans didn't agree with how it was done. I think we probably will see more protests, but again, it's like, what's the effect of that going to be? Us holding up signs at a game and walking out after 55 minutes when you've already paid your ticket money, is that actually going to do anything? And I would like to see the UB do more things, but the problem is nobody's going to take them seriously because, let's be completely honest, the average sort of age of someone in that group is like a teenager. They're always hiding their faces and anonymous. They're not exactly going to be the most knowledgeable people on, how to run a football club or a business or finance or anything like that. So whilst, they make a great atmosphere and stuff like that, and they can certainly use their voice for good, at the same time, if you really want to force change, you're going to have to liaise with the club. You're going to have to speak to them, get representatives that you know their name, you know their face, get them out doing interviews with the media instead of this just sort of like anonymous stuff. And I understand why they do it, because I think the way that football fans are policed, especially up here, is an absolute disgrace. So I get why they're doing that, but at the same time, it's like, if you really want to force change and make an impact, I think that's going to have to be the next steps. But Scott, we've heard people, everyone's mentioned this, season ticket renewal thing and whatnot, and that'll probably be coming out mid to the end of April. It's all well and good people saying now, you won't get people renewing their seats, but you know as well as I do that Rangers are well supported and well backed. The only time, and I mean, we've been through a lot of hard times the last few years, the only time that we have not renewed our season tickets en masse was that 14-15 season under the Spivs, and that was heavily backed by different fans groups, high profile fans. Like, that was a proper campaign. We can all say that maybe you will get, I think, sporadic people maybe not renewing for one reason or another, but generally speaking, I don't see why we would drop a significant amount of season tickets, at least until there's some sort of orchestrated campaign to do that.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. it's even people are saying I'm not renewing. Of course, they're going to renew, because they all know if they don't renew, they're probably not going to get that seat back, or they'll be on a waiting list for a very, very long time. Because obviously, I sit in the club deck, right? I sit in a very good seat. If I was to ever give that up, I will never get that seat back. Trust me, I'll never get that seat back, because I know as soon as if I was to give it up, boom, it'll be taken straight away. So no, I don't think fans will actually be like, nah. I don't think fans will be like, yeah, you know what? I'm 100%. That's it. I'm no renewing. It will still be the same, and I don't see anything changing anytime soon whatsoever. It's just the way, as I think it's just the way Rangers fans are as well. We're extremely loyal, and that's one thing that the board take for granted, and obviously previous boards as well. They take that for granted. The fact that, especially with the whole Majors thing as well, it's like they've made a lot of money off the Rangers support, and the Rangers support have had very little in return over the last 10 to 12 years. One league cup, one Scottish Cup, and obviously a Europa League final. Apart from that, Rangers fans have spent thousands and thousands following the team home and away to Seville, wherever, and we've really got nothing. We've not got a lot to show for it.
I know, but that is the thing with Rangers supporters. We are loyal. Do you know what I mean? And I'm not going to sit here and tell fans what they should or shouldn't do. I mean, at the end of the day, it's your seat, it's your choice, it's your voice. But one thing, Scott, that I really am hating now is the toxicity levels amongst Rangers supporters, especially online. And I know Twitter's Twitter and all that, but I just think that, because we've maybe not got one group to sort of congregate towards at the moment, I just think that, you've got all these people that have got different views on how the club should be run, and it's such a mess. And I think that's actually to the advantage of the current regime and the owners, because if they know that the fans are divided on how the club's run, they'll still be able to do what they do. And I said it at the start of the season, we keep using the term rebuild. This is not a rebuild. This is a downsizing. The executive, the owners know they went all out. They went all out for 55, and then they basically pulled the plug. But pulling the plug has effectively cost us the last 4 seasons now domestically. And I think they're now just realising that we are in a mess. And I actually think that Philippe Clement was brought in, and Neil Scoppin was to get those sort of hidden gems on the cheap. Yefty, Eagleman, and to actually make the club a bit of money, so that when these guys do sell the club on, they actually get a wee bit of money back. And by the way, I've got no issue with people coming in and selling the club on for profit. That's fine, as long as the club do well on the park, make as much money out of the club as you want, as far as I'm concerned. But again, that's my sort of devilish side speaking there. You don't know if that's true or not, but that's just my thoughts on it. I think they've now realised, and that's why they've outsourced the big jobs now to Patrick Stewart and whatnot, and they're supposedly taking a back seat. I think now that the point where they might be looking to sell up, and I think they'll be looking.
Yeah, right. You're breaking up, Craig. Craig. You're not there anymore. Sorry about this, guys. Obviously, technical. How do I see that going? How do I see it going? I actually think Rangers will win. I think we'll see a response from the team, because it's just typical Rangers. That's what Rangers do. It's like Rangers are such an enigma of a football team. It's a lot like Dessers as well. We all know that Cyril Dessers is probably the most frustrating player to ever wear a Rangers jersey, if I'm being totally honest. But obviously Hearts are something on the table. They've picked up a wee bit of form as of late. His I think they're undefeated in the last like 4 or 5 games or so. They're doing okay, because obviously there was a period, obviously earlier on this season where everyone thought they were going to go down. But they're doing okay just now. But Tynecastle, as we all know, is a very tough place to go. But Rangers will win. We'll see a response. But will that change anything? Are Rangers going to like get back in the title race, whatever? No. Like, I feel as though the Rangers right now, it should just be all the eggs in one basket with Europe and see what happens, right? And just see what happens. And as I said in the pod earlier on, it would not shock me if Rangers actually go on to the Europa League semi-final or even the final. Because Clement is not a dud, like, as a manager. He's not. He just doesn't understand Scottish football or Rangers. He doesn't get it. We're setting up, like for example, when we're playing like St Johnstone, St Mirren, we're setting up like we're playing Barcelona, which is baffling. But when you look back at that European campaign, the only really bad result was a Lyon one at home. That was horrendous, but everything else was fine. So it was, because the fact that we made the top 8 kind of like says a lot. And there he is. He's back, Craigie Ray. I was just saying, obviously, to the Gersnet viewers about how obviously the fact that we made the top 8 of the Europa League, which nobody really expected. We thought we'd get the playoffs at a push, but I mean, you look at our draw as well. It was a Champions League draw, and we done well. So that's only bright spark, I would say, from this season. And of course, you'll agree with that. That's only bright spark from like Clement's. But the only three bright sparks from Clement's tenure so far has been obviously the League Cup win, last 16 back to back, and obviously, this European campaign.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Sorry about that, guys. I'm not too sure what's happened. I think maybe Douglas Park or the board have cut me off now. But no, yeah, I mean, Europe's been decent enough, Scott. But like I said last week, it doesn't really matter unless you're actually winning things. So, the only way that this guy's going to turn it around is by winning the whole damn thing, which, yeah, I think is pretty unlikely.
But can you imagine it? Can you imagine it? But right after everything, right, that Clement has been through, losing to Queen's Park, all the abuse and everything, then Rangers go on to win the Europa League. Imagine it. Seriously. Oh,
No,
I God, see if we make the semi-finals, I'm booking flights to Bilbao. Because I remember the last minute chaos trying to book flights to Seville. Because I remember I texted my ex-girlfriend at the time and I was like, yeah, right, as soon as we beat Leipzig, I was like, book flights now. And then the whole chaos with that, we were in, 7 airports in 5 countries in the space of like 48 hours. I don't want to go through that again. So I'm going to be well prepared this time round. So if we make the semis, boom, flights are getting booked, hotel and everything for Bilbao.
You just know then if we do get to the semis and you book the flights, that's when we're going to get knocked out.
Probably, but that's what it is. That's what it is, mate.
I'm glad we can try and be a wee bit positive considering everything that's happened this week and this season, you know.
Yeah.
But we'll see what happens. I heard you talking about Sunday there. To be quite honest, I know this is supposed to be a Hearts preview. I don't think anybody cares about Sunday. Honestly, I can see Hearts getting something. They're on a pretty decent run of form now at the moment. They've had a bit of a new manager bounce. Some players are back in form for them. You know, it's a perfect storm. But at the same time, if we do go on and win maybe the next 3 or 4 games, I also wouldn't be surprised until we get to Celtic Park in March and get absolutely gubbed again, which is probably the most likely outcome. But yeah, that's a nice positive into your Valentine's night.
100%, mate. Because that's the thing I put out in the chat last night. I'm just like, here, I'm just trying to be positive, man. Because right now it's like everything's just so toxic surrounding Rangers, understandably so. Everything's just horrendous. So I was just like, you know what? Like I was watching some Seville videos, like the road to Seville last night on TikTok and YouTube, and that I'm just like, oh, take me back to those times, man. Prime Tavernier as well. Tavernier just running the show, bossing it in Europe, and just the limbs, as they say. It's obviously the term that the kids say nowadays. The limbs, or whatever it is. But yeah, it's But who knows, Craig? It's, as I said, it would not shock me if we go far in this competition because it's just the most Rangers thing to do. Like, you get knocked out by Queen's Park, but then you can just go far in Europe.
Well, we can certainly dream of Bilbao, but we've got to go to Galway first on Sunday. Yeah, but we'll see what happens on Sunday, and we'll see what happens for the rest of the European tournament. But we're here, we're always here, despite everything that's going on, and for whatever reason, we just don't go away. It's very Valentine's like, isn't it, Scott? Being loyal and stuff like that to that one thing that you love most in the world, your football club. As they say, we've been through worse, and we'll get through this again.
100%, Craig. 100%. We'll get through it. I don't think there's any football club in the world, in my opinion, that's been through the stuff that Rangers, of course, have been through. Like, think about it: administration, demotion to the lower leagues, and the humiliation that we've had to experience in the last 13 years or so. It's been quite something, and we've obviously stuck by through thick and thin, and that won't change. That won't change. And I'm not going to be one of those Rangers fans that's going to give up my season ticket, because of course I love my seat. I love watching Rangers every week, despite how bad we are. It's still, you can't beat that feeling anytime you're at Ibrox. So, and we'll get through it, and just need to stick together, and we need to cut out the absolute nonsense behaviour that we see online, and it's of course it's from the folk with the faceless profile pictures. It's always those ones that pipe up the most, don't go to games and all that kind of thing. They pipe up and try to like argue with folk and abuse other folk, and it's just laughable, like just losers. That's what they are.
Well, I'm sure Patrick Shilt's licking his lips, knowing that he's got at least one renewal this summer anyway.
That's it. He's got Scott Bradley guaranteed.
No, I think that's a good way to end there, guys. It'll be John, Colin and Alan on Sunday to review that game at Tynecastle and look ahead to another tricky game against Killie next midweek as well. All that's left to do now is thank my guests for coming on. Scott, thanks for coming on, mate. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure, my man. Pleasure.
And thanks to the guests at home. We'll see you soon, guys. Bye-bye.